Most tech transfer offices think of themselves as some sort of metaphor. So for example, you'll hear people say that we're like a startup company, and that's good because being innovative is good, but every metaphor breaks down, and there's some ways that the tech transfer office definitely is not like a startup company. So for example, if you launch a startup company, you can scale. You can hire more people, you can buy more equipment, you can get new spaces, and at most universities, it's going to be very difficult to do that. Over time, your office might expand, but you can't just scale up as demand increases. Startup companies also control their revenue in ways that a tech transfer office doesn't. So you'll see that the metaphor breaks down a little bit. But again, if it encourages you to be innovative, then think of yourself as a startup company. Another common metaphor is to think of yourself as a manufacturing operation. We have invention disclosures coming in one end, and we process them, we search for patentability, marketability, et cetera. And then out the other end, we put a license agreement. So you can think of kind of a conveyor belt approach to tech transfer, but that breaks down quite a bit also. If you're running an actual manufacturing business, you can control your inputs. You decide which materials you need. In tech transfer, we kind of take whatever invention disclosures come in the door. So professors in their research are deciding what we'll ultimately work on. That's great, but it's very different from a manufacturing company. In the middle of a manufacturing operation, you have inventory. So you have to store parts and partly finished work somewhere. In tech transfer, things work a little different. We could store an infinite number of technologies. So our inventory capacity is infinite, although there is a cost to that. So that's a major difference. Then the output also is dependent on a lot of factors that are a little less mechanical than an assembly line. Still, if you need to think of your processes and comparing yourselves to a manufacturing operation helps you to do that, then it could be useful to use that metaphor. Ultimately, not a great metaphor. When I first got to tech transfer, I thought we're like a law firm. So the metaphor is we're like attorneys and the professors are like our clients. They come to us with questions, we help them out, maybe by licensing technologies, and then they go on their way happily served by their lawyer tech transfer office. That's not a very good metaphor at all for several reasons. One is that a tech transfer office does serve the faculty, but ultimately your client is the university you work for, not any particular faculty member. And sooner or later, you're going to have a situation where an inventor wants to do one thing and the university wants to do another thing. In that situation, you'll side with the university, which is very different than if you were an attorney serving the professor. Another thing is that in tech transfer, we have to think of ourselves as being very productive. We can't just be reactionary like you would be if you were in a service office like a law firm. So currently in tech transfer at BYU, we're thinking of ourselves a little bit as a production studio. I'm literally in a production studio right now. And the way we use that as a metaphor is that we receive technologies from our inventors, and then our job is to make them understandable to the outside world, kind of to present them to as many people as possible, hopefully entrepreneurs and other people that can license them. That means creating videos like this, creating sell sheets that just very simply explain our technologies, and otherwise communicating. That's a pretty good metaphor for us because it's getting us to do marketing work that we weren't doing well previously. However, it also breaks down. Obviously, there's a lot more to tech transfer than that. We have to work on patenting still and licensing and all the other technical aspects of tech transfer. So if you were to ask an Elon Musk, he would tell you what you should do is focus on basic principles. Forget metaphors, they're always misleading, and focus on first principles, decide what tech transfer is, and build it from the ground up. I think it's okay to use metaphors, though, as long as they're fulfilling your need. As in all things, intentionality is what matters, so choose a metaphor that gets you where you want to be.